Hey everyone, welcome back to Day Trader Barlow. I'm Barlow. Please hit that like button. Love to hear what you think. Even if you don't watch the rest of the video or any of the other videos, just I'd love if you could. But sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to myself, which is okay, I guess. Looking at today's profit in the accounts, made $153 in this new Mind Funded Futures account, and I'm up to 3,000, over 3,000 in profit in this other account. Again, please like and subscribe. I'm going to talk about how to make $1 million, if it's even possible, what's involved in it. It's a lot more than you think. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Reviewing my plan to put $1 million in my bank. Sounds crazy, but I feel like looking at it objectively, it is very possible. The time frame, who knows, but trying to actually develop a plan here, have a Excel spreadsheet set up here. Most people are just going to look at the revenue first. What I want to focus on really is the risk that I'm allocating towards this goal here. Working up to 5 My Funded Futures accounts, 5 take profit, and 3 trade day. This is what I am going to be working with to get 5-figure and then eventually 6-figure months going here. So this is really important to look at, I think, is how much money you're actually allocating. You can see with the 5 My Funded Futures, even with a $150 daily risk budget per day, if it's spread across 5 accounts, that's $750. Looking at a weekly as well, 3,000, over $3,000 risking weekly, and 7,500 risking monthly. Ideally, I would like to be making at least that every day with all the accounts combined. Now, I do generally, if you look at the revenues, once I'm above the buffer, I will have a negative risk reward because I am just looking for a small amount every day here initially, and then I can change all these goals here once I'm in profit and I'm withdrawing money. So that this is really cool to be able to look at this and see how this might potentially work out here. Looking at the annual revenue goal from My Funded Futures, take profit trader and trade day here. The trade day accounts only allowed 3, so not as much potential revenue there. You can see if I hit all these goals on these accounts here, that would be a gross income of $156,000 for the year. Then you got to remember to calculate taxes in, and I went ahead and just looked up in ChatGPT how much tax I would owe on $156,000 in income. You can see the total tax is $26,853. So something to consider here. Definitely to take into consideration, because $1 million in the bank is going to be after tax. So that means that I have to make more than $1 million to actually have $1 million in the bank. So this is really cool that I'm looking at this and getting a realistic kind of expectation here for what I need to do to get that $1 million in the bank. So what is 129,147? How many times do I have to make this to get to $1 million after tax? It looks like about 7 years here. 1 million divided by 129, 147, 7.74 years if I was just to do this. Okay, so what's the steps here that I need to take to get this rolling here? Because I feel like sometimes I'm just not going anywhere. I'm just standing still almost, or not getting much traction. So important to look at the steps I need to take here, I think, as far as initially, number one, getting the funded accounts. So passing those, right? Then getting, number 2, getting above the buffer. In order to take money out from these prop firms, you generally have to get above the buffer. My funded futures is the exception. However, I obviously want to keep buffer in the account so that I can have a couple losing days if I had to, and that's where the daily budgets come in. On this my funded futures, $150 risk budget. Once I'm above that $1,500 level, I think that's going to be my risk budget per account. Initially just looking for $50 per day, because with my funded futures, you only need 5 days of $100 or more to take a withdrawal. With Take Profit Trader, anything above the buffer, I can withdraw, no minimum days to trade. This is where most people, and myself included, mess up these accounts, because you want to get paid as fast as possible. Looking at that $1,500, so sometimes I've made that amount in one day, but that's not the right way to approach these accounts longer term. So I don't want to do that. I really want to get above the $1,500 buffer, and to just look for small goals initially the first month once I have all these accounts set up. With trade day, same thing as Take Profit Trader, except you have a larger buffer here, $2,000, a little bit more money to make. These accounts could take a little longer to start paying me out here. This is assuming a 5-figure month here. If I can hit this $13,000 in October or November, this would be a really good start. So what are the next steps? Getting above the buffer, and then keeping losses to a minimum. This is where I'd go to the daily budget tab here. And this is where I am setting up my Guardian Angel Trader. Discussed that before, to make sure that I'm locked out if I hit this daily risk budget. Same thing for the week. If I did hit 5 days in a row of losses, then it should not exceed $750. That means in this account I would have 2 weeks. I could have 2 weeks of losing trades before I actually lost the whole account. Slightly more with Take Profit Trader. Just trying to do what I feel works the best here for me. And in my experience, having a $200 to $250 risk budget on this, it's not going to give me as many losing days. However, I do feel it has enabled me to grow these accounts, having a little more leeway and just shooting for small gains every day once I get above that buffer. So $650 per day from all the accounts. That would be a very conservative goal. But realistically, what am I looking at if I wanted to get to $1 million in the next year, in the next 12 months? What would I actually have to do here? Either have more accounts, potentially. So I'm just talking to myself here, trying to figure this out. Getting to 1 million. $12 months. That would require, let's see, okay, $83,333 a month. So if I was to use these accounts only, 13 accounts, would be $6,944 across 13 accounts. And that wouldn't even get me to the million mark after tax. So let's ask ChatGPT, how much tax would I owe on 1 million of 1099 income. This looks like I could deduct half of my tax as a self-employed individual. So do I have to, it looks like I have to pay Social Security and Medicare. I'm not sure about that. I'll check. So it's saying total federal tax would be $374,730. Is that real? 37.5% effective tax rate. This is crazy. Wow. Be my net income after take home 625. Man, that's crazy. That's crazy. So if anybody knows a smarter way to do this, let me know, because this seems like a lot of work to have that much, almost. It's 40% of your profits completely gone. That's insane. How much in profit do I need to make to have? This is crazy. So fortunately I live in a state in Nevada where there is no state income tax, but if I make 1.6 million in 12 months, then I would net 1 million. Okay, so this is really a big realization for me when somebody's saying they got $1 million, they had $1 million in payouts, $1 million in 1099 income for the year. They're only keeping, they're paying self-employment tax $625,000 at best. And then if they had state tax, it would be even less than that. That is crazy, right? That is the reality of making $1 million. You got to give these billionaires credit when you think about how much work that takes to make just 1 million, how much taxes they must be paying. Now, there are ways to write off your expenses, but I'm not going to have $300,000 in expenses, right? The idea is to keep the expenses as low as possible. What's your take on this? What do you think about making $1 million in 12 months? If it's realistic, I'm looking at this and starting to think maybe 12 months isn't really long enough, and probably 7 years would be more realistic. 7 years seems like a long time. So how would you get to that 83,000? How would I get to that $83,000 a month? That's basically what I'm making driving a city bus in 1 year, making that in 1 month. I guess there would be two ways to do that. Size up. So taking larger size with the same setups. Every time I've done this, it's backfired on me. So I'd really have to adjust my daily budget here to reflect the larger size and give myself more room, which would mean probably larger account size needed with a larger drawdown, because just looking at this monthly profit goal and daily profit goal, so this is a huge difference here. Monthly 13,000 versus 83,000, 6 times this amount, trading more accounts. So if this was 13 accounts, multiplying that times 6, that's not really realistic, I don't think. Who's going to have 83 accounts and trade? So really, realistically, I think potentially looking at the larger size accounts, once I've shown that I can make the 13,000 per month consistently for, say, 2 to 3 months, then I could potentially size up the accounts. Let's take a look at what the largest account sizes are here. with Take Profit Trader. They have a $150,000 account, and that would be 4,500 divided by 1,500. So it's 3 times the size of the 25K, and you're paying 360 divided by 150, about 2.5 times as much. That's potentially an option, is to increase the size of those accounts times 5. That would get me to 3 times potential profits based on the risk allocation. And then let's look at my funded futures. Looks like they do have 150K accounts with $4,500 drawdown. Okay, so very similar to Take Profit Trader. What's the cost here on scaling? This is scaling. This one is not. Scaling just means that initially you're only allocated a portion of the maximum contracts. That's what I'm working with right now in the core accounts that I have with them. For the 150,000, you start with 2 minis, looks like 10 micros. And then as you grow the account, you can get up to 9 minis here. Very dangerous sizing here. Even with the larger accounts, I don't think that I would take more than 6. However, to get to that 83,000, you really got to be trading some size here or spread it across multiple accounts. See what trade day. Looks like their maximum account size is 150,000 with a $4,000 drawdown, not even 4,500. And the futures desk, let's take a look at futures desk. Just need to look at this new plan. Okay, $200,000 equivalent. Okay. How much is the drawdown? Okay, this is really good. $6,000 drawdown. Okay, very cool. So this might be a potential option here. With the futures desk, bigger drawdown. So I guess the plan has to be, it looks like, to trade larger sized accounts with more drawdowns. It ties in with taking larger size with the same setups, but doing that in larger size accounts and with more accounts. So really, even the 83,000 a month is just before tax. I really ideally making 1.6 million divided by 12, $133,000 a month. Basically, if you wanted to trade across 13 accounts, it'd be having 6 figures every month, looking at 10,000 across 13 accounts approximately. So this is a little depressing. To be honest, I hadn't really looked at what it takes to actually get to $1 million in profit in my bank. There's a lot more involved than just making the money. Planning, initially getting the accounts is the hard part for most people. Getting the buying power, getting above that buffer so you can actually maintain your capital and start withdrawing. This is a whole process. It's not just let me make as much money as possible. It's really something I got to think a little more about and put some more effort into actually planning. But I'm very proud of myself and happy that I actually went in here and looked at what it actually is going to require in order to get those kind of numbers in my bank. Get that profit. I'm excited about this because I know it's possible. Is it realistic in 12 months? No, I don't think so. 2 years, I think it's definitely achievable. I think it's definitely achievable for me. I would like to keep following up with you. Please comment below on what you think, what your goals are. If you've thought about it like this, if you have a spreadsheet like this, how much did you make in 2024, 2025? How much have you made this year? How much are you looking to make? What is your goal? Is it process over profits? I like that, because process actually leads to more profits when you focus on just trading well and being smart and not focusing on the money as much. That's all I've got for this week. I will be requesting a payout from my funded futures next week, looking to get the ball rolling with more accounts, keeping the accounts above the buffer, making sure that I have the defined risk in place for all my accounts. And that's about it. That's all I got. Hope this is interesting, or something maybe you haven't thought of like this, but I definitely haven't thought about it like this before. So much respect to all the millionaires out there, how much work goes involved to actually make that money and put it in your bank. It's a lot more than $1 million when you're looking at it like this.